Hi, my name is Felina Hansen, and I am the president of NAVO San Diego. You are tuning in to the Resilience Panel Release. The Resilience Award is presented to a woman in business who is a real warrior. She has overcome challenges by coming up with innovative solutions for business sustainability.
My name is Kelly O'Hara, and I'm the founder of Uplift Accounting. I do back office support, accounting, contract, and fractional CFO work for small businesses who want to be a force for good and have an impact on their people and communities. I also represent an organization called San Diego Whale Watch. I'm the CFO there and help run a whale watching company local in San Diego. Last month we had over 9,000 guests, so it's a busy operation and a lot of fun.
My name is Dolores Jackson. I'm president of Lolita's Mexican Food. We are a family-owned business in San Diego. We've been here for 37 years, and we are a fast casual concept. We do donate a lot to our community, and I think our children especially are extremely important.
Hi, good morning. My name is Marjan Rashedi. I'm the president, founder, CEO, the head person for everything for my two dental practices, Smile Builders Children's Dentistry and North County Dental Surgery Center. We're up in San Marcos. We see lower income families that need help a little bit more, but the concept is we're just like any other private PPO practice. And basically we just don't turn anybody away. We try to incorporate all the treatment that we can and make it easy for our patients to get care.
Hi, I'm Angela Minardi. I'm the Chief Experience Officer and owner at Fit City Adventures. Fit City is a corporate team building and wellness company. We keep teams connected and healthy with over 100 options, ranging from meditation and ergonomics to beach cleanups and bonfires. We work with the C-suite team leaders and HR teams to recruit, engage, and retain the best employees and keep the culture strong.
Hi, my name is Lena Ramos, and I'm the co-founder and president of No Foam Systems. We're a clean tech technology working with the FAA and compliance at airports, both domestically and abroad. So a lot of people ask us what's behind the name No Foam Systems. And so what happens when you test emergency equipment is you deploy a foam that's called PFAS. And if you know anything about chemicals, it's hazardous to the environment. It's one of those forever materials, so it's almost impossible to dispose of. And of course, exposure to both people and planet is something that the EPA and the FAA want to avoid. So what we did is took a proprietary technology and we were able to simulate with accuracy approved by the FAA and the NFPA 412 standard, the testing of the equipment without using foam. And so what we do is we use water, completely environmentally friendly, no exposure to either the environment or people that work with the systems. And so that's a little bit behind the name No Foam Systems, because as a matter of compliance, you're required to test your equipment, but dispensing foam is hazardous. And what we try to do is then address the need to avoid that while ensuring that your equipment was emergency ready. And we were doing it with no foam.
What is the biggest challenge you faced this year and how did you overcome it?
Biggest challenge I faced and how I overcame it. I only get to pick one? What? I would say the biggest challenge that I faced was keeping my mindset in alignment with my values to support my clients. So having a mindset of abundance, of everything is figure outable, with 92% of my clients completely shut down during COVID. Everyone was in panic mode. And so for me, the challenge was showing up to my clients with as much information as possible, as many options, which required a lot of education on all the funding, all the grants, what's included, what's excluded. So it was kind of like twofold: me making sure I had all the education possible that I could at the time, and then coming to the client with a calm, let's figure this out response action instead of this reactive panic mode that all my clients were in. So for me, what was challenging about that was not getting sucked into that panic of the client. So I overcame that by upping my meditation practice, keeping my yoga practice, really dipping into my experience of having a failed business and how painful that was, and that I really wanted to help these people. And yeah, I showed up and just kept going. Luckily, there was education all the time, so I just kept myself busy with education and serving everybody. With the whale watching and sunset cruise business, we had to close completely, so no bodies. We still had overhead, but so the challenge was figuring out how to make it through the time we were closed with the resources that we had, and really fine tuning not only like our cost and our expenses, but actually looking for opportunities to start to build in different revenue sources that were going to help when we reopened. We are always at positive mindset that we were going to reopen. So we really started to build partnerships with hotels, with concierge, with schools, where we would have a different influx of revenue streams when we were back up and running. So we really went into like forward motion for that client and that business, which is doing great now.
Just like for everybody this year, this past year has been COVID, and it really hasn't ended for us. We're in the restaurant business. When March, and I remember it being March 17th when we really had to start acting and making changes. It was really, okay, what do we do? Where do we go from here? And my job and my position was really, we have 7 locations and a food truck. So it really was, how is this going to affect every single, store? And how is it going to affect our team members? Because we did have to make decisions, and every day things were changing. So for us, it was taking a step back, getting an idea of where we go. Is it modifying hours, or are we going to be closed? So for us, the decision was moving forward. We had to modify hours. We did have to make some cuts, unfortunately, and we did have to close one of our stores because it's at a San Diego State. So it's on campus. And with eventually with no students, we ended up having to make a call and closing that. So it was really, okay, here's where we're at, here's what we're given, and this is what we're going to do. And it was really coming to our boardroom, our conference room, and getting a whiteboard and, drawing out all the spaces we have, all the dining rooms. And because, remember it went to a 50 capacity, then 25 capacity. So it was a constant change. And so for us, it was really staying on top of that, understanding how that was going to affect us, understanding how it was going to affect our team, and trying to still take care of them. And we remain open, right? So because we have to also take care of the health of our business. So it was a lot of juggling, but it was just a lot of pivoting and not, making sure we didn't stop moving forward. So we also, here, thankfully, we had someone that was constantly listening. And at first we were all listening to the press conferences, right? And then we kind of narrowed it down because we had other things to do as well. So we had one designated individual listening in every single day. We came up with a protocol of how to check our team if someone comes in sick or what happens there. So that's just how we kept moving. So for us, that was a huge challenge, and it just kept rolling, as things changed. And even coming into this year and most recently is the staffing challenges, now trying to get everybody back. Because what happened in the restaurant industry is that when COVID first hit, everything was kind of modified, everything was pivoted. So it kind of balanced out because we modified hours, we had to cut team members, but our guest also wasn't coming through the same way. Come into, in a sense, kind of March timeframe this year, April timeframe, when we started getting back, when guests started coming back, when things started opening up, everyone came back. Guests, your customers, they came back, but staff wasn't coming back. So for us, that was a huge challenge, and continues to be a huge challenge of modifying our hours, staying on top of that, trying to hire. So it's been this year-long and year-plus long challenge that we've been dealing with. That's just really been the most difficult thing in the 37 years that this business has been here, and definitely in the 20 years that I've been here. This has been our biggest challenge. We have to stay positive, and as Kelly mentioned earlier, it's how do you keep yourself sane? How do you keep yourself calm, because it's our job to keep everybody else calm. And I too, I work out 6 days a week. I did cut it to about 4 days, went to 5 and it went to about 4. And I think for me, that's really what keeps my stress level down. And it helps me be able to push through my days and keep everybody on point. So even now we're going in on a daily basis to help out some of the stores. And I'm learning things that I never did before because I never worked inside the store. And now being a family business, we're having to go in and saying, I'm here to help you. What do you need from me? So it's been interesting.
If I have to think about the challenges of this year, I really can't just pick one, but I started writing them down to be able to answer this question. And what it really came down to was, how do you keep everyone, including yourself, happy and calm throughout the whole thing? I had to close my practices for 2 months. I have like over 16 different doctors that work for me, between oral surgeons and orthodontists and pediatric dentists and anesthesiologists and nurses. And when they all left, I still was taking on the emergencies from the hospital, and I was so I was pretty much still seeing emergency patients every day. And when it was time to reopen, and there was a lot to think about. Okay, how do I make everyone feel safe? How do I make sure that my staff is still happy? Because patients were coming. We were one of those offices where the patients, we did have some that weren't comfortable coming in yet, but for the most part, they were ready to come back. There were toothaches. We see a lot of high-risk patients. And so they would come in and the staff would just be sort of stressed, or this parent coughed, or that kid is running around, or they came in with more of the kids than they were supposed to. And dealing with all the rules and the new protocols, and having somebody out to screen the patients before they came into the office. And how do you ask them that many questions before they come in? And so there's quite a few things that I did to overcome that. And mostly it was just starting to think outside of the box. We couldn't do our normal staff get-togethers. I remember after like 3 months, you could like walk into the office and feel that everyone's just like, I'm stressed out. And so we just went to a park that was like down the street, ordered food, everybody could socially distance, and it just felt calmer. So I started doing that like every week to week and a half, just so that my staff could be calmer, because patients would feel it and parents would feel it, and it would just feel lighter as soon as you came back. But I hear it with what Kelly and Dolores have also said, and it's challenging, and it's still challenging. And I think I went through the worst month with staffing of my career in March. And I remember coming out of that month being like, oh my God, how am I ever, and I think what I came out with is just, you have to be pre-prepared, like be even more prepared than prepared, and like have backups for your backups, and your backups with supplies and doctors and staff. And, I just started asking for more help from places I wouldn't normally ask for help from, and it worked out in the end. But I have a good team and can't ask for more.
Our business completely changed the business model. So for me, the biggest challenge with Fit City Adventures being a team building company, our mission is cultivating and inspiring meaningful human connections through active and healthy team building and giving back to the communities that we serve. So we're all about bringing people together in person. And when we couldn't do that, we obviously had to switch to an alternative method on Zoom. The scary part for me was I quit my high-paying consulting job in October of 2019 to do this full time. So by March of 2020, when all of my events canceled and my revenue went down to $500, I started to question myself and everything that I was doing. 2 degrees, and now I'm going to be living on the street. But I knew that obviously wasn't a possibility. And for me, it's just trying to find the silver lining and keep moving forward and being resilient. And I was able to pivot to virtual. I pulled together some awesome partners being in San Diego. We have such a great community here that wants to lift each other up, and partnered with the Cone Restaurant Group. And we just started shipping out kits. And I looked at all the holidays coming up and said, how can we bring joy to people with these holidays? And Cinco de Mayo was really the first one, and Mother's Day. And we had kits and classes we were shipping out for every holiday. And then, the events just weren't coming back. So I said, well, we've got to work at corporate. So let me get involved with HR teams. And I was making phone calls, really just dialing, cold calling HR directors and saying, we're here to help. How can we help you? Here's a survey for your employees, a pulse survey. Let's see where people are at and how we can keep them connected, right, and healthy at this. A lot of mental health, a lot of nutrition, a lot of just fun events like doing piano shows online to get people to stay connected, game shows, how we can have fun to keep people, just engaged and inspired. So we were hosting free events at the time, and it grew and grew and grew. And by the holidays, everyone needed a holiday party, and that was our biggest revenue generator for Fit City since I started the company in June of 2019. The revenue went up to about 250,000. So that was exciting for me. But then another challenge, I didn't have the staff. So I had to find friends and partners that could help fulfill those needs for the holiday period. And just planning out, as you all know, your business while you're the solopreneur and you're doing the operations and the financials and the business development. So a lot of challenges, but all growth and all amazing. And now I'm able to work with companies across the country because COVID actually opened the doors to new opportunities with virtual that we were able to take advantage of as a team building company that I would have never been able to do if it was just San Diego based. So while events are coming back and we've got that line of business, now we have our virtual line of business, and we're also moving into commercial real estate line of business. So it's an exciting time, and I truly believe that all these challenges are put in our way to make us stronger and keep us creative and innovative. So I'm just really grateful for it.
We work in the travel industry, and in fact, it's emergency response in the travel industry. What that means is if there's ever an incident where it requires first responders, what our system does through proprietary technology is it tests that equipment will be emergency ready. And so while the entire travel industry was shutting down, our company actually became very busy with lots of growth because of the need for compliance certification to ensure that emergency equipment could actually work in the event of an incident. And thank goodness, obviously, we don't ever want that to happen. But if you don't test the equipment, you can have a situation where once it's needed, it's been sitting idle for so long that it's actually not functional, and that would be catastrophic. So the biggest challenge that we faced this year was twofold. First, it was addressing high growth in supply chain and travel restricted environment. The way that we overcame this was we took an all in this together approach. We worked with our suppliers to ensure that if we were able to make orders that they could fulfill, they had to meet certain minimums. It meant we took on a little more inventory than we should have, but we had a good buffer to never run out of supply. So that was the first thing that we did. The second thing that we did was we used technology to pivot. There are a lot of things that we do on site, whether it's installation or training, or even just working with inspectors to train them. And what we did was we used technology to allow ourselves to support with the installation and the training, albeit virtually. And I think one of the most memorable events were where we had our representative on FaceTime looking like an influencer while the team on the other end used their camera to view in on components and meters and readings, but we were able to get it done. And in fact, one of our best letters of recommendation came from that activity, how we were able to just get the work done without having to stop given the travel restrictions.
What does resilience mean to you?
I was thinking about this, and to me, it really means using your will and your spirit to move past obstacles or setbacks for the purpose of like positive expansion. We're all here to expand, and you can either do it from a positive mindset or a negative pain mindset. And so for me, resilience is really tapping into that opportunity. Like Angela was saying, that everything is here to teach us a lesson and push us forward. And yeah, more and more, I look forward to an obstacle to see how I can move through it, practice my leadership skills, practice my creative thinking, I think it keeps us on our toes and not afraid for any situation that comes our way, which is really valuable in the business world to help reduce stress, that you have the confidence to go through challenges as they come to you, because it just happens, whether it's a pandemic. There's so many challenges, so many. Even hearing all the ladies speak about the challenges, I was like, oh my God, I forgot I did all those things this year. We did a lot.
So resilience to me is really the ability to bounce back. Again, this past year more than any other, it was just really understanding, taking a step back, looking at what's in front of you, and putting a plan in place to keep moving forward. If we stop, everything stops, right? So we have to keep moving forward. So it's important not to be reactive, but instead have the ability to take a step back, take a look, get an overview of the whole picture of what's in front of you, and being able to make a decision to move forward, to move your teams forward. And as we mentioned, keeping not only ourselves, but the rest of our teams moving forward. And, whatever path you choose, if it doesn't work out, just come back to the drawing board and keep pushing forward. And I think the importance here is just never give up, keep pushing. You can make it, stay positive, and take a breath when you need it as well, because you're going to need that in order to just keep pushing through. But it's been an interesting year. It's been a challenging year, but at the same time, I think many of us will say the same thing, that it's been a growing year for sure in many ways.
Resilience to me means you stand up and you don't sit down. and that's basically what it is. If there's a new challenge, you don't just sit down and be like, oh, okay. And you can't play victim. You have to find a way to get through it, or think outside of the box, or come up with a different solution and just not give up. And that just has to come within. Not everyone has it. And I think it's one of those things that is so necessary to not only run a business, but just to run any aspect of your life successfully, whether it's personal or raising kids, or family, or vacationing. Things can come up at any time, and you have to not be like, oh, poor me, just get up and be like, okay, what can we do? Let's move past this. Let's not just get stuck in it. So that's what it means to me. I think it's one of the biggest things that any person needs to have a happy and progressive life.
Resilience, to some people think that it means getting back up when you're down, but to me, falling is not really even an option. I box, I own a fitness company, so I think about bobbing and weaving and the way that boxers get around those things. So it really is a test and anticipating kind of what's coming at you. It's just pushing you in a different direction that maybe you couldn't see with blinders on, or a challenge that's going to make you stronger. But we're always moving forward on a path. And sometimes you just have to do your best and trust that you're going the right way, even though you really don't know, or you don't have that control, which is hard for me as a business owner, because I want to control the business, but you can't control life, as many have said. So it really is finding the best in every situation.
So what does resilience mean to me? Honestly, I would say that it's the harmonization of a number of different factors. It means taking your capabilities and confidence as a foundation, and then confidently mapping out a strategy, because you're faced with the problem and you need to use your networks and your connections, like we did with our suppliers. We worked with our suppliers to solve a supply chain problem. And as you're doing that, you need to maintain your value system and your character so that you contribute to solving that problem for as much as you take. And despite being in what I call coping mode, that you try and focus and stay clear and in control of what you're actually trying to achieve. And when you bring that together, I think the clarity and resilience in any challenging situation it rises to the top.
Who is another awesome woman you admire for her resilience?
I forgot about this question. So mine would have to be Erin Ayers. She is one of my good friends and the owner of Yoga on Sea. It's a yoga studio on Coronado. And she, after some delay, opened up the doors on March 8th, 2020, only to be shut down 10 days later. And she, continued to show up for her community, build community, pivot to online. And for me, that's one of my self-care, big self-care items is doing yoga, my practice of asana and pranayama and meditation. And she, despite, I can imagine that the business was struggling, she made it work and she stayed open and she kept on fighting for that space and that community, and is still open today and is open and thriving. So I really admire her, because being a new business owner and having, 8 days in and having that happen, I can't even imagine. I would have been crushed and thrown in the towel. I'm sure of it, and said, I'll try something else. So I really admired that she stuck with it and had the balls to see it through, because it's, what she wants to do. So
a woman that I obviously admire for their resilience was my grandmother. Unfortunately, she passed last year due to COVID. And she came to the US 65 years ago. And back then, 8 kids at the time from Mexico. Back then, there were no resources as there are now. So the ability for her to not only come with, with her husband and the 8 children that they had, and try to figure out what the US was like. And they did come here legally. My grandfather was here on it was a program back then. I right now I'm forgetting the name of it, but he came here and he eventually brought his family here. And, they struggled for a number of years of just trying to figure out, how to have their family here, how to go through the, finding, place to live, what the jobs were like. And all the children were involved at first in helping them work. They were up, picking fruits and whatever else it was. And eventually, like probably after 8 years or so after they were here in the US, they opened their own business. And 57 years later, the business is still doing great. And it's just something for me that my grandmother, again, being on her own, not speaking English, and getting through all the challenges, and being able to open her own business was just, for me, is just proves to be great resiliency on her part. And so, yeah, I truly admired her.
By far, hands down, the most resilient woman I know is my own mother. She's a force to be reckoned with, and anyone who meets her would say the same thing. She came here with my dad on a student visa, thinking she was going to go back in 4 months. And then the revolution started. So they were here in Mississippi, of all places, and had 2 kids there, and then moved to New York. For her to have kids and be married in a new country and in a very different state, and in school, going through the process of citizenship and green card. Still, both my parents became engineers, and my mom worked full time for my entire childhood. And I remember spending tons of time with her. And now that I'm a mom myself, I know how hard that can be and how challenging that can be. Running the house, having a beautiful dinner on the table every night, being educated, having a very successful job, and then raising 3 girls that know nothing but to be resilient is really the only way that we were taught to do anything. She's unbelievable. She's always, the word can't was not allowed. and it was, and I just owe everything to her when I think about it. Like, I know that a lot of the reason that I can just do what I need to do, even if it's difficult, is something that might be really, really challenging, or really like, oh my God, this is going to knock this person down. I'm just like, okay, this stinks, I'm going to do it. It came from her 100%. And I'm so glad to have her influence in my life.
So I have a lot of women that I admire for their resilience, one being my grandmother, who was also an immigrant and came to the US in 1970 with 3 young kids. And she taught me how to be strong and creative. But more timely, I think, I thought about this question, and I've been watching the Olympics, and I truly admire Simone Biles and her resilience and everything that she has gone through with her sexual trauma and her past to be put on the stage that she's put on and recently say, you know what, my mental health isn't there. I'm going to take a break for me. My team's got this. So all the adversity that she's faced and just now how she then came back to compete and win a silver on the balance beam, it was super inspiring to see that. So, just to have her out on the stage, kind of leading the way for women and mental health was really great to see.
So, who's another awesome woman that I admire for their resilience? And I know many people say things like Amelia Earhart or, the first vice president of the United States. And all of those women and all that came before them are amazing. But I always answer this question in the same way, and people are usually surprised. I always answer my mother. My mother raised 10 children with the poise and grace of a warrior. And even when times were very challenging, as you can imagine, 10 children, she had an amazing ability to create a sense of confidence, striving for excellence, and community in those that she nurtured. And for me, that's what we try and foster at our company. And for that reason, my mother would be the other woman that I would admire for their resilience and the way that they are able to inspire.
Give us a fun fact about you, a way for us to get to know you a bit better.
Okay, so fun thing about me is I'm a potter. So I make pottery. I've been going for 6 years, and everything in my house is pottery because you keep making things and you're like, what do I do with this? Like, oh, pencils go in it. And like, this is a little potter, a plant potter, or here's like a cool little magic potion bottle, or like, here's a bowl, So I just keep on creating stuff. And finally I decided that I need to get rid of it. So I started a little company called Purpose Pottery. So now I sell my pottery like very low key when someone asks, and all the proceeds go to charity. So that's a really fun way to clear out my closet of massive amounts of pottery. They're also good for gifting, but yeah, I'm a potter. I go to pottery. It's my creative outlet that I really enjoy.
I don't consider myself really fun. For so many years, it was just being mom and taking the kids to the practices and games. I think for 5 years, I was doing that, 26 years. And then all of a sudden all that stopped and I didn't know what to do with my life. So I just invested more time in working. Finally, probably about 3 years ago or something is when I started getting back into working out. So for now, I guess for me, it's just really obviously spending time with family and friends, but also working out and going on hikes with my new, we call it the hiking crew or our hiking team. And going on vacation, which has been this past year. Again, due to COVID, I got out more to a point because I started thinking, what do I want with my life? And I want to enjoy my life and I want to have fun. And it also helped just mentally to be able to leave and get away and go out with friends, on vacation or just short trips. So that's been fun this last year. So just traveling, I guess, would be my thing. I just enjoy it. And learning new things, I guess.
I have to agree with Dolores. This was not like a super easy question for me, but I'm sort of on the opposite end because my daughter's only 2. So I still have a ways to go. But I spent the majority of my 30s building my practice. And I thought, well, before I had a kid, because that's really what has sort of decreased my own self-time, what did I do? And that I was just absolutely happy all the time. And that it was traveling. I would go to at least 2 to 3 different countries a year, even if it was just a weekend, I would do it. And seeing how other cultures live and cook and learning their cooking ways, something I love to do. And I get to disconnect. Now it's not that way. If I travel somewhere, my phone is on all the time, but I still do get to disconnect if there's a time zone change. But so I'm very much looking forward to being able to travel again soon and experience different things, do different activities. I do things when I'm in different countries that I wouldn't do here. I'll go ziplining. I'll just do anything, and it's just amazing being with different cultures and different people and learning how different people around the world live. I love nothing more than that.
Yeah, so something fun about me, I would say every year I try to do something that challenges my creativity and totally gets me out of my comfort zone. I did a program called Next Stage at the Shout House in San Diego, the piano bar, where they brought 6 strangers together, formed a band. We learned 10 songs and performed them on stage. So I played the harmonica, piano. It was amazing. This year, my challenge is doing this open mic stand-up comedy. So I've been writing some sketches and I'm going to have my comedian friends take a look at it. So that's the creative side of the brain. And then, of course, being in fitness, I have to challenge myself every year. And I just hiked a large portion of the Pacific Crest Trail in Big Bear in May for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, trained for months, and hiked 28 miles in one day for what's called the Trailblaze Challenge to raise money for the kiddos. So that was a lot of fun. And now I'm trying to pick my next hike.
I do Ironmans for fun. I don't know if people know what that is. It's a triathlon. And then I do the long distance. In fact, I'm signed up for my 28th one in November. And that's a 2.4-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and then a marathon. And you do it back to back. And if you want to go to Kona, which is what they put on TV for the World Championships, you have to win or come very close to winning to get the Kona slot. And so it's a fun fact. And I'm always teased because anything I do, I equate to, Ironman years, or, oh, that's just like in an Ironman. In fact, the question on what does resilience mean to you? I thought about it because someone once told me when I was first starting to participate in these events on the swim, you have to be resilient. You can't fight the ocean. You have to stay calm, stay confident, stay poised, stay in control, do the work, do the training, make sure that you're actually able to complete the race. But that I equated with resilience, and I thought, well, I don't think I should use the Ironman example there. Maybe I'll use that on the fun question. That's a fun fact. I participate in endurance races, and I think a little of resilience and what this theme of this award is really does resonate when I think about my little hobby.